In this year's Baseball All-Star Game, the AL beats the NL 4-0. That game was over in the first inning. The Dodgers have an 11.5 game lead. The Rays are 3 games ahead of the Yankees. The Guardians and the White Sox are in a dead heat. What in the world's going on? Find out in our special All-Star edition of Sports Triad.
Pull up a chair, folks. 3 Lances on the line.
Welcome back to all of our viewers for the new episode of Sports Triad, which we recorded on July 15th, 2026. Our all-star panelists remain the same. I'm Ken Lance, your humble novice host, whose opinions do not resemble facts in any manner. Our next panelist, author, songwriter, and retired computer geek, Steve Lance, who honestly believes his opinions are based in facts. And finally, our award-winning sports broadcaster, Tyler Lance, whose opinions are based on facts. As always, we start each week with our Hard as Diamonds trivia question. Steve spends hours and hours trying to come up with something to stump Tyler. Let's hear what he came up with this week.
Okay, this time I think I've got you, Tyler. So let's see. I'll give the question, then we'll get your reaction, but then we'll let the viewers have a chance to put their answer in the comments. So this one has to do with Triple Crown winners. And the question is, and the Triple Crown, as most people probably know, is you lead the league in home runs, RBIs, and average. So since 1940, there have been 5 players who have won the Triple Crown. You get credit if you get 4 of the 5 of those players right. There'll be extra credit if you can name the one player who had 2 of them. And there will be even more credit if you can name the 2 players who not only led their league, but led the majors. So what do you think, Tyler? Do I have a chance of stumping you?
This is a good one. This is multi-layered. It won't be an O for today. We're gonna at least get something out of this, but I'm gonna have to dig a little deeper to get full credit on this one today.
All right, sounds good. We'll let the viewers put their answers in the comments, and we'll circle around near the end of the episode.
All right. I'm not sure anyone saw this coming, but what's happening with the Rays this year? Steve?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna say it's pitching. So it is a surprise, and I think if you look at a couple of things, one is this Nick Martinez. I mean, wow, what a find, huh? And the other thing is one run or not, close games where they win by 1 run. So 9-1. So I think you also have who's their Baker, their relief pitcher, having 25 saves now. What do you think, Tyler? Or do you think this is pitching, or do you think there's more going on here?
Yeah, the Rays are fascinating for a lot of reasons, honestly. And I think first and foremost, they're back home at Tropicana Field, which, you kind of look at teams' home and road splits, and usually teams are a little better at home than on the road, but that advantage is even bigger for the Rays. And, of course, last year they were playing at the Yankees spring training complex since Tropicana Field took on that hurricane damage. But now they're back at Tropicana Field. They're, like you said, at the top of the division. But I agree with you. It's pitching, but it's not in the way people are used to the Rays having pitching. So in recent seasons, everyone kind of thinks of the Rays for, they cobbled together this bullpen out of nowhere, all these no-name guys, and they just have the best relievers in the league. And the Rays bullpen, outside of Brian Baker, is pretty mediocre this season. It's pretty middle of the pack, but their starting rotation this year has been good. And, I think part of what makes the Rays so interesting is their lineup, pitching-wise and hitting-wise, just fits together so well. And I think that's such an overlooked part of baseball. Some people think that you throw money at a bunch of star players and put them on the roster, and it doesn't really matter they're the fit and you're going to win. But if that were true, the Mets would be really good every year, and they're not. So I think roster fit really kind of matters a lot. And, I think that's huge this year for the Rays. You look at the way they're winning right now, really good starting pitching ERA. They've issued the second least walks in Major League Baseball, so their pitchers don't beat themselves. And then hitting-wise, they're also one of the lowest teams in strikeouts. So it's kind of an old-school way to win. They put the ball in play a lot. Their batting average, on-base percentage, those are both top 5 in Major League Baseball. they don't hit a ton of home runs. They don't have huge strikeout numbers in their pitching staff. But, you add that together for the fact that they score really well in a lot of the defensive analytics. And one of the ones that I kind of look at is runs saved. And the Rays are number 2 in Major League Baseball in that category. So that's kind of how a small market team has to win. But like the Rays have done it to perfection. But, I kind of add with the point that even though it has some aspects of a typical good Rays kind of season, it's a little bit different just in the fact that it's more on their starting pitching this year than it's on their relief pitching.
Do you think they'll be able to hold out and win the division, or you think the Yankees in the end will overtake them?
I do think the Rays will end up winning the division, and for a couple of reasons. One, I think the Yankees have a lot of injury concerns right now. For one, Aaron Judge is probably not coming back for at least another month as we record this in mid-July. And, worst case scenario, it could be in September when he finally comes back. And the Yankees are a very, very different team without Judge. I mean, they've played basically 500 baseball since he went down with an injury. So that's concern number one. Not to mention Max Fried and Carlos Rodon, 2 of the Yankees' 5 starting pitchers, are both on the injured list. So that's a huge, huge concern if you're the Yankees. And then number 2, I think one thing that really gets overlooked in baseball sometimes is strength of schedule. Just because everyone plays everyone, so you're saying, well, teams play the same schedule, what does it matter? Well, not exactly. When you play teams really matters. And if you look at the schedule the rest of the way, the Rays actually have the 3rd easiest schedule in baseball. Only Houston and Cleveland have an easier schedule for the rest of the season. So I think combined with an easier schedule, plus Yankees are dealing with more injuries than the Rays right now. And not to mention, the Rays are already up by 3 games. So it's on the Yankees to overcome that deficit. I do think the Rays will hang on and end up winning the division.
Yeah. And, if they get the Mo going, then, who knows what can happen, right?
You mean with the Trop? Or
the momentum going.
Oh, the momentum. Sorry, slow on the uptake there. That might be a part to cut out. I thought you meant I see. Yeah,
I'm making up words.
He's making it up as we go along. So
yeah.
All right. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, they've had a great first half so far, and if they keep the momentum going in the second half, the important thing is you want to get one of those buys where you're not having to play a wild card series. And obviously you have to win your division to do that. But the Rays are in a great spot, not only to do that, but to get home field advantage throughout the American League bracket of the playoffs.
I always root for the small market teams. It just seems unfair otherwise.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, it's no surprise the Dodgers are walking away with it this year. They're one of the top 2 teams in payroll. And if you figure in the luxury tax and the deferred compensation, they're number 1 at $415 million.
Wow. So, Tyler, what do you think of, are we experiencing a generation superstar in Ohtani? Is he the Tiger Woods, the Mike Tyson, the Michael Jordan of this decade?
I would say definitely. And the crazy part about it is you think back to the previous best player in baseball, right? I'd say Mike Trout kind of handed off the title of best player in baseball to Shohei Ohtani, which is funny because they intersected when they both played with the Angels. But as we've kind of seen Trout's career decline a little bit as he's aged, we've also seen Ohtani really break out as this two-way superstar. And, I think one of the big criticisms of baseball as a whole in their marketing, but also Mike Trout to a certain extent, is just he maybe wasn't a household name in the same way baseball stars of a previous generation were. You look back to the early 2000s, like a Barry Bonds or a David Ortiz, like those guys were household names in a way that Mike Trout really hasn't been in his career. And I think more than anything, that's kind of in the way that baseball has changed overall. It's become more of a regional sport, and, the NFL and NBA have taken more and more of the market share from baseball, and, certain segments of the fan base for baseball have tuned out maybe compared to, how popular it was in the 90s or early 2000s. But I think the crazy thing of Ohtani now, and going back to this point about being a generational superstar, he's become a household name in a way that I thought we weren't really ever going to have again in baseball. Like, I think even if you've never watched a single Major League Baseball game this season, you know exactly who Shohei Ohtani is. Like, you may not have watched a baseball game in the past 5 years or even 10 years. You probably still know who Ohtani is. So I think, like, even just outside of what he's done on the field, I just think from a name recognition standpoint, like, he does belong in that category. Like, he does belong with like a Tiger or like a LeBron or something like that. Like, he is that kind of generational athlete. And I think just obviously, I mean, I'm not saying anything new, but the fact that you have someone who's one of the best pitchers in the league, might win a Cy Young this year, multi-time MVP winner, 50 plus home run hitter in different seasons in his career, like, that speaks for itself. But, in the way that he's kind of become this household name, I think really sort of seals the deal as far as generational star.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got a pitcher who can hit like anything, so the DH rule certainly helps out there. So, but
yeah,
it would have been interesting if Babe Ruth would have had that, huh?
Oh man. Yeah. And the funny thing is the Dodgers haven't even really used that rule as much as they have in the past this season. Because there have been a lot of days this year where Ohtani's pitched and he has only pitched, or vice versa. He's been a DH and that's been it. But I think, this is part of the conversation about them being up 11 games in the division. I think the Dodgers really kind of load manage the regular season more than any other Major League Baseball team, knowing that it would have to be a total disaster for them to miss the playoffs or not win their division. And, they're obviously in that spot right now where they're about as sure of a bet as anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So looking at the other side of the spectrum, the Guardians are one of the lowest teams at $70 million. They're 10 games behind the Dodgers in the win column. That's $34.5 million for each of those 10 games per game.
Yeah. I mean, these small market teams, they know how to work the payroll and get the most out of it.
Yeah, we were talking about the Rays earlier, and I'd throw the Brewers in there as well. There's, we have our sports triad right here. The Major League Baseball triad of small market teams that always win. The Brewers, the Rays, and the Guardians. I mean, those teams have genius front offices. I think you can kind of see it when the bigger market teams hire people from our front office or hire people from our coaching staffs, talking about those three teams. And we'll see if in this new collective bargaining agreement anything changes as far as the landscape goes. I mean, collective bargaining is coming up at the end of this year, and the owners have been pushing really hard for a salary cap. Last collective bargaining agreement, kind of the pushes for the expanded playoffs. They got that. I mean, it's going to be a big time fight. I don't think the players' union is going to give away a salary cap or acquiesce to a salary cap without a big fight and potentially a lockout. But yeah, it's a credit to the Guardians, Rays, and Brewers, especially for continuing to win in spite of a system that is not designed for them to win. And it's kind of a shame from Major League Baseball's standpoint that even has to be necessary. The Cincinnati Bengals don't have to worry about Joe Burrow going to another team unless their owner cheaps out. Like, the Chiefs don't have to worry about Patrick Mahomes going to another team. But, a star player in Cincinnati or Kansas City or Cleveland or Tampa Bay in Major League Baseball, if you're a fan base, you're always thinking a few years down the road, when are we going to trade them because they're not going to sign a big contract with us? And what's that going to look like? That's kind of the shame of where the sport's at, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you get them for the rookie comes up and you get them for the first few years, and then you just know they'll go leave at some point.
Yeah. Or the other trend too, and some of the small market teams we've talked about have been better about doing this. You sign guys to a long-term contract before they even play a major league game, which that could be a huge bust. They could not work out, and you could be paying $15 million a year to a guy who's doing nothing for your team. Or it can work out really well where you have a guy under a cheap below market contract for a long time. But I mean, that's just small market teams just have to do creative things that big market teams don't have to do in order to stay competitive and stay relevant.
I think isn't that what the Indians did in the 90s? Like they took a lot of risk and signed a lot of players to longer contracts, and then they were there. And then they had them.
Exactly. That was kind of one of the centerpiece strategies of those mid-1990s and late 1990s Indians, and that was very uncommon at the time. I mean, there are stories about how other front offices thought that the GM at the time, John Hart, was crazy for signing these young players to long-term contracts, but now it's a much more common practice, even to the point where some bigger market teams have also decided to do it a little bit too. maybe not so much a top tier market like the Dodgers or the Mets or the Yankees, but some of those big but not massive market teams like the Braves would be a good example. They've kind of started to employ that same strategy, but I'd say, yeah, the mid 1990s Indians are one of the first teams to really sort of do that.
Tyler, you said something that's interesting. I didn't realize so the Guardians' schedule is favorable on the second half. Is that what one of the
Very. Yeah. So basically, if you look at the opposing win percentage for the rest of the games, the Guardians have the lowest opposing win percentage for the rest of their schedule in Major League Baseball, and they've played a lot of tough teams already. I mean, they've already played the Dodgers. They've already played the Yankees. They've already played the Rays. They've already played the Braves. There's going to be a lot of series against teams like the Rockies and the Athletics and the Angels, teams like that in the second half of the season that the Guardians could potentially take advantage of and try to create some separation between them and the White Sox.
That'd be great.
I'm ready for it. So our feature all-star player is Mike Trout this week. Steve, why don't you give us some stats on Mike?
Yeah. So Tyler, where I'm pulling them up, what's your take on Mike?
Well, I mean, he's one of the greatest players of all time. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, 100%. And, frankly, we're not going to see a whole lot of Mike Trouts in the future, and we really haven't seen a lot of them in recent seasons from the standpoint that this is a guy who has spent his entire career for the Los Angeles Angels. And he probably will spend the rest of his career for the Angels as well because he's signed through 2030. And by the time his contract expires, he's going to be, I think, 38 or 39. And I can't imagine he'll be playing much longer beyond that. It's just rare to see one player stay with a team their entire career, especially someone who has as long of a career as Mike Trout. Like, yes, it's a shame that he has only appeared in one playoff series, but that's more of a blame to the Angels front office and ownership for wasting a team that had Trout and Ohtani on it at the same time with just terrible roster moves. But it's not Mike Trout's fault. I mean, he's one of the greatest players to ever do it, and I don't think there's anyone who would question that.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point earlier too. Once again, where you said, the top line players just do not get the press that they used to get. Like, I've heard, obviously, you hear Mike Trout, but you don't really realize what a top-notch player he is. Do you think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Easy. I think to the point he might become unanimous, and I believe so far there's only been one unanimous selection in Major League Baseball history, but I would not be surprised if Mike Trout was the second. There used to be more of a stigma around having a unanimous Hall of Famer, but I think now that it's happened once, and I believe it was Mariano Rivera, I'm going to look it up, but now that it's happened once, I think people are more willing to do that. There's not going to be a person who just casts a throwaway vote without Mike Trout on their ballot just to make sure he's not unanimous. So I think not only will he go in on the first ballot, I think everyone will vote for him.
Yeah. Big question is, do you think he can get the 500 home runs? He's got 422 right now. He's 34 years old, 16 years in the league. What do you think? Does he make 500?
This is a tough one. I think it kind of depends on how long Trout wants to stick around at the end of his career when things are not going very well and there's a lot of injuries. And granted, I mean, his power has actually gone back up a little bit the last 2 years just because he's been in the lineup a bit more. But if you do the math, so his contract goes through 2030. So we're talking about the 2027, 2028, 2029, and 2030 season, 4 years after this one. So he's at 422 right now. Let's say he hits 10 more home runs this year and he's 68 away. He would need to hit between 17 and 18 home runs per year for the next 4 seasons to get to 500, which for Mike Trout is very doable. But where I have 2 questions is, one, I'm not so convinced we're going to have a 2027 season. I hope I'm wrong, but this is going to be a very, very hard-fought labor fight. And even if we have a season, I wonder if we're going to lose a certain amount of games, which that's going to take away some home run opportunities for Trout. 2, yes, he's been more healthy the past 2 years, but as major league players get into their mid and late 30s, they tend to get less healthy and get more injuries as opposed to less injuries. And we've already seen just a ton of injuries for Trout in recent years. So, man, it would stink not to see Mike Trout get 500 home runs. I'm going to say no, just because I have too many concerns with next season potentially being interrupted and some injuries. And plus, I don't think Mike Trout is the type of guy who's going to stick around for 3 extra years just because he's getting close to the milestone. Like, I think when this contract ends, Trout's going to be done, and he's not going to stick around at the end of his career languishing and being a bad player just to chase the milestone. So I'm going to guess no, but I'm rooting for him to do it because I feel like the guy deserves it.
Yeah. And, like if next year, if the season is interrupted, I think the older players, if they have to sit out a year, I think it's going to hurt the older players more than the younger players. It'll be a lot harder to get back in the groove after sitting out a year.
That's a great point too. Yeah, that's a great point.
Do you think any of the players? So let's see. We have Stanton at 456. He's 36 years old, and let's see. We have Judge at 385. Goldschmidt at 387. Is this Manny? How do you say that? 300. Yeah, 388. You think any of them? Oh, Otani has 302. Do you think any of them have a shot at 500?
Yeah, so I'll kind of go in order of how confident I am. So I'm very confident Aaron Judge will hit 500 home runs.
Which one?
Because at this point, Aaron Judge is 34. He's still going to play a long time, I think, for the Yankees. And, will he ever hit 62 home runs in a season again? Probably not, but I could see him still having another couple 40 home run seasons. I mean, if he's, just over 100 home runs away, like a couple 40 home run seasons and then maybe, a 30 homer season and a 20 homer season, like he's there. Like I would be stunned if Aaron Judge didn't make it to 500. Stanton maybe, but I'd kind of put him in the same bucket as Trout, where it's like he's old, he's at the end of his career. It would be stunning if Giancarlo Stanton even plays half the season for the rest of his career because he had so many injury issues. So probably not. Manny Machado is kind of an interesting one there. I'd probably put him second behind Judge as far as players I think will get to 500 because, he's still early enough in his 30s where he's still got a good amount of career in front of him. And, I think the one thing against Machado is this has been one of his worst career seasons. So you worry if maybe he's about to hit a big age-related decline. But I think if he has a bounce back next year and, gets back on track, I think he still has a chance. Goldschmidt, I'd say, like, he's too late in the career. And after that, I think you probably have to start to look to some younger players and project out to the future. But I would say, if I had to predict, I'd say Judge and Machado do get it eventually. I think Stanton will probably just miss it, as will Goldschmidt.
Yeah, I think Trout has an outside shot. Like I'd put him third, and once again, injuries will probably decide it.
Yeah, that's about where I'd have him. You could convince me that maybe he has a slightly better chance than Machado, but I'm the most confident in Judge, and I'd probably put Trout and Machado at about the same level of confidence.
Yeah.
All right, so who wins the World Series? Steve?
Well, you know who my pick is. Same pick I've had for the last 50 years is, well, no, it's a different team. I'm picking the Guardians, a different name, I should say. I used to pick the Indians. Now it's the Guardians.
Love it.
Yeah. I mean, if you make me not pick the Guardians, I think it's the Dodgers. I mean, I think they just have too much going on.
I'm going to answer your question by giving a non-answer. In fact, I'll answer your question with a question. My question is, how can I answer that question before the trade deadline? Because if you think about it, one of these teams is probably going to trade for Tarek Skubal, right? All of these teams are probably going to look to add relief help at some point during the deadline. And there's going to be a few big deals that go down. Like I think, if we're grading this like a report card, like it would get an I for incomplete because I just don't think you can tell the story of which team's going to win the World Series without knowing what happens to the trade deadline. Because I think that's a massive piece. I mean, I think whichever team gets Skubal could immediately become the favorite to win it all. Or like if the Padres, for instance, are willing to trade Mason Miller, their closer, like whichever team adds him to their bullpen could, kind of take that same sort of step as well. Teams I feel good about right now, like, yeah, the Dodgers, when you're picking the World Series champion, I think you have to predict a team that's not going to have to play in the wild card round where it's only a 3-game series. Because, like, look, any team can win a 3-game series. Like, look at the regular season. The Rockies could win a 3-game series against the Dodgers, right? The Orioles could win a 3-game series against the Yankees. But would those teams win in a 7-game series? Probably not. So, as of right now, like, Dodgers are the best bet. In fact, they're the only team that I'd say is for sure to avoid the wild card round because they're up by 11 in the division. And they're also up with a big lead for the number 1 seed in the National League. So it'd be hard not to pick the Dodgers. I mean, you look at what wins in October, home runs and a good bullpen, and the Dodgers have both of them. Plus, like, I'd be stunned if the Dodgers didn't execute some sort of trade to improve their team at the trade deadline. But, I mean, I think the winner in the National League East is going to have a pretty good chance, too, between Philly and Atlanta, which sounds crazy of how miserable of a start to the season Philadelphia had. But they have caught up to Atlanta. I mean, they're only a couple of games behind now. Phillies have a great starting rotation. And, I mean, Harper and Schwarber in the middle of your lineup is a huge 1-2 as far as home run threats. And, American League is kind of wide open. I mean, I think Yankees have the most talent on paper, but like I said, they have injury concerns. I think they're going to have to play a wild card series. And even though Yankees have the best bullpen ERA in baseball and one of the highest home run totals in baseball, I do think their home runs kind of get bumped up a little bit by the fact that they play in a very home run friendly ballpark. So when they have to go on the road, they're not the same team. And if they're not winning their division over the Rays, which I don't think they will, they're going to have to be on the road a lot in the postseason. So, American League's kind of wide open. I think the Guardians are kind of a sneaky pick just because they do have a really good bullpen. They do have a really good starting rotation. And I think their batting order has a lot more talent than previous seasons. I just think they haven't had guys get hot at the same time. If you get Jose Ramirez back to his normal level when he comes back and Steven Kwan starts hitting, Guardians actually start to have a decent lineup. But, I mean, at this point, again, you've got to look at teams that are going to avoid that wild card series. And it would be crazy not to say the Dodgers are the favorite, having won the last 2 World Series and currently have the best record. But that's also the boring answer. And I also think you can't really give a full picture of the World Series favorites until we see what happens at the August 3rd trade deadline.
All right. Well, there you go. So that brings us back to the hard as diamonds trivia question.
Okay, just to remind our viewers, we're talking about baseball Triple Crown winners. And there has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Triple Crown winners since 1940. It's been won 6 times, but there's been 5 different players. And we're giving credit if you get 4 of the 5. So what says you, Tyler?
All right. Well, the most recent winner was Miguel Cabrera of the Tigers, and that was 2012, if I recall correctly. So he was one of the Triple Crown winners since 1940. I know your 2-time winner was Boston Red Sox Hall of Famer Ted Williams. So that is another one. Mickey Mantle definitely won a Triple Crown for the Yankees. Those are the 3 I knew for sure. After that, did Frank Robinson ever win a Triple Crown? That's my guess there. I think he did.
Yep, you got it.
Oh, yes, let's go.
So you got 4 out of 5.
Oh, man.
I'm
I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get all 5, though. Let me think about this for just a second. So, other Triple Crown winner, home runs, RBIs, batting average, best in the league. Oh, man.
Well, he's thinking, Steve. Tell me you didn't spend more than 10 minutes on this one, coming up with this question. He got 4 already.
Well, that's true. That's true. I should have made it a little tougher. I should have gone back to Paul Haynes in 1878 winning the Triple.
I would not have gotten that one for the record.
You want me to give you a year or a team, Tyler, as a hint? You've already gotten the question as 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I'll take partial credit on this one. I don't think I can think of it on my own. So if you want to drop a hint out there, I'll take you up on that.
I'll tell you the Red Sox. He was a Red Sox.
Oh, it was not a Red Sox. Okay, my mind immediately goes to Carl Yastrzemski when you say that.
1967.
All right.
Wow.
Fun fact, that was right before the year of the pitcher. Carl Yastrzemski once led the Major League Baseball in batting average with a 301. But that 1967 Triple Crown was right before that. 1968 was the year that that 301 league leading batting average happened.
Now, do you know which of those players, two of them, won both the league and the majors overall? They had that lead in all three categories in both.
All right. So as not to mislead our viewers, this is going to be a pure guess because I'm not sure on this one, but I'm going to play the numbers and say Ted Williams was one of them.
Yeah, it is 1942, which, that was a war year too. A lot of good players went off to the war. He went after the season, by the way. He played out the 42 season, then he went to World War II. But yep, Ted Williams was one of them.
Yeah, a lot of great players from that era missed a couple of seasons fighting in the war. But yeah, so Ted Williams, and then I'll say Mantle was the other one.
You got it.
All right. That was a little on the lucky side, folks, but we'll take it.
Nice.
Okay, you want one more super hard question?
Let's do it. Let's try our luck.
Okay, there was one other player, now we're going all the way back. One other player besides Ted Williams who won it twice. Can you name the other player who did it? And let me give you a hint because it's he was a St. Louis Cardinal. That was probably too big of a hint.
Okay. Yeah, so when you say that, my mind goes to Roger Hornsby.
Yeah, as soon as I said Cardinal, I was like, he's going to be the obvious choice.
Yeah. I don't know if I would have gotten to that one without that hint, but yes, Roger Hornsby.
Yeah, some other interesting names is Lou Gehrig won it in 34. Jimmy Fox won it in 33. Ty Cobb, that's kind of surprising just because of the home runs, but he won it in 09 before
Back in the dead ball era.
And of course, Paul Hines back in 1878 was their first Triple Crown winner.
Okay. What about Joe Medwick in 1937? One of the more Triple Crown winners of all time.
Yes. I would have gone to 37. You would have had it, huh?
Who doesn't remember the 1937 season? Come on, folks.
All right. What's coming up in sports, Steve?
Well, we have the World Cup's going to finish up. Surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, Spain's a very good team. Spain got knocked off France. France was odds-on winner. And we also have the NFL they're starting their camps. And I don't think it's this week. I think it's either next week or the following week. So, believe it or not, football's back.
Football's upon us, folks.
Right around the corner. All right, that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share this episode. See you next time.
Oh, pull up a chair, folks. 3 lances on the line. Scoreboards lit up early. We got games to unwind. From the bleachers to the back roads, we're calling every play. Who's hot, who's hurt, who's rising, and who just slipped away. Hear that crowd get louder, feel that Friday frame. We got boots on the side